These rods have about 50 to 60 nights on them. Some people would run them again, some wouldn't. Today we're going to disassemble them, clean them up, measure them, and decide if we're going to put them back in an engine or toss them in the scrap pile. Welcome back to the Cunningham Custom Engines YouTube channel. I'm your host, Travis Cunningham, and this is episode 12. Thank you for 500 subscribers. We're at 510 right now. Back when I restarted this channel in early December, I didn't think we'd hit 500 this quick, so super stoked about that. Can't thank every single one of you enough. The last two videos have really been doing a good job, so we're going to do a little continuation on that kind of series. And this week we're going to talk about piston and rods, mainly rods. This is mainly one of the... If you're going to blow up an engine, a lot of the times it was one of these things that breaks. So we're going to do a deep dive into that, disassemble them, check all the parts involved with them, and at the end of the day we're going to decide if we're going to reuse the rods again or scrap them. So we're going to head over to the rod vise, and step one is take off the piston from the rod. Alright, step one of taking apart your piston and rod assembly. You need your handy dandy rod vise. Don't technically need it, but it makes things way easier and doesn't tear anything up or mark anything. And you also need your two little picks. Step one is going to be getting the pin lock out. There's two different kinds. There's spiral locks and there's wire locks. Spiral locks are way easier to put in and out. These ones are older, so they have the spiral locks. Most newer pistons have the wire locks. And to put them in and out, or definitely put them in, you better have some strong thumbs. But these are spiral locks, and they're a lot easier. There's a little tang on them. Pry out the tang. Pop out the clip. If it was a wire lock, you can screw it up and it'd be clanging across the shop, but there's your spiral lock. Literally like a spiral. And there's two in there on each side holding in this piston. There we go. Two locks out. Second one gave me a little grief. Not gonna lie. And sometimes they're got a little burr on there, so. Knock the pin out a little bit. Voila. Disassembled. Up next, take the rod cap off, and we'll check out what the bearing looks like. Big end bearing. This is the top, and this side of the bearing looks really, really nice. You can see nice even gray. Not very many marks. And I'll show you the bottom end. This one does have a little mark. I'm going to explain it. You can see that little bit of wear on the corner. That means this rod could be just a little bit out of round. I checked, it still had my clearance number on it. It had 2 thou 6/10. So that's generally in the clearances I like. So this probably had a little bit of a cold startup at one time and made that little bit of a mark. It also has some little pitting on it, and I think that's because I let it sit over a winter. Without rebuilding it, and the alcohol settles on the bottom, but definitely need a new bearing. So that's a rod all apart. I always try to keep the bolts in the same holes they came out of. Some guys don't do that, but I always try to. And this is called the upper, and this is the lower. And if you're putting your bearings in, you'll see it says it there. Upper, lower. And if you screw those up, you're going to have a bad time. So always make sure upper and lower. Sometimes it feels backwards because this is on the top usually when you're holding the rods, but it's on the bottom when it's in the engine. So there's your rod all disassembled. Up next, time to clean it. There's what it looks like under the bearing. So we're going to clean that up. These are probably going to have to be rehoned, but we'll see. Up next, Varsol bin. So all you need, a little bit of Scotch-Brite, Varsol in a spray bottle. This Varsol tank does work now. I could flip the switch, but it's a little early. I'm only doing one rod, so I'm going to use the spray bottle. But give her some Varsol. And just rub the end with the Scotch-Brite. For a little spray. She looks nice and new. Same thing. The lower. Always need a fresh piece of Scotch-Brite, and it wears out quick, so when you're doing 8 rods, better have some fresh pieces going because it always works better when it's nice and crisp. Nice. Still see my older said 26. I think I said that already, but yeah, the rod clearance. Wipe it off. Then we put her in the wash. Spray off bin. Hit it with a little super clean that I mix with water. I cut it about 50-50 because this stuff is potent. But it makes it so clean. And as my dad used to say, gotta have the parts surgically clean, which is very true. These parts are so clean when you're done with the super clean, they almost feel tacky clean. You can feel the cleanness. Water's gotta be rip roaring hot when you blow it off. Cleaning with cold water sucks. Yeah, give her the air blow. That thing's loud. There you go. Nice clean rod. Up next, clean the rod bolts. Like I said, I always keep track. The way I keep track is I just watch which one was on the tanged side of the rod. There's a tang for the bearing, so I just always keep track of that bolt. This is this one, so I wash first. Same stuff. Tang on the left. Now the bolts are clean, and we can torque. Now we can torque the rod back together and measure the end, see if it needs to be cleaned up. All right. Back at the rod vise, got her all cleaned up. Step next. Next step. There's the tangs. They go together. Put the top ends together. Give them whack with your hand. You don't really want to pull it together with the bolts. It's kind of a no-no. Rod back together. into the rod vise. And I remembered where my tang bolt was. Let me put some Stream Pressure Lube numero 3 on our ARP rod bolt. I'm going to torque it to probably 75 because I know these bolts already. But if you're starting with new rods and new bolts, you would check the recommendations and start like a cycle at 50 pounds and then loosen them. And then on the third try, go to full torque. But I already know these bolts, so we're looking for about 5 thou 8/10 stretch to 6 thou 2/10-ish. And we're going to torque them at 75. Check the stretch. If it's still good, bolts are still good. Give them up about like so. That was the tang. Not the most exciting stuff. Then once we're done this, we'll measure the big end. See what it looks like. I'm going to bet it's going to be a little out of round and we're going to want to true them up. Always nice on the threads and underneath. A lot of guys use this same lube on their titanium bolts when they're assembling their cars. My bad. Got to use our ARP rod stretch gauge first. I always zero it on the tang bolts. Alright, got her zeroed on the tang bolt in the free state. It's just sitting in there, it's not torqued or nothing yet. Not even run down because the slightest bit of tightening can put a little stretch on it. And then the non-tang bolt, sometimes they're a couple thou difference in length, so you gotta remember that this one is 2 thou. Yeah, you're gonna minus 2 thou on that one when you get your final number. So put them in. Run them down. Very lightly if you're using this. I love this little snap-on. It's perfect for engine stuff. You don't want to use a big impact on an engine unless you're running top fuel and you're rebuilding your engine in between rounds. Those guys are insane. Love it. 75. You just put the littlest on it and then you run her all the way to 75. Not the best angle, but a lot of people have bailed by now. Alright, tang bolt. It measures about 6 thou. And this one, yeah, both are at about 6 thou 2/10, so right at the max. Bolts are still good. Alright, now we're over at the rod reconditioner. This is my next one I need to clean up and get going. But, because these rods are probably going to need a cleanup. I've already zeroed our rod reconditioning. This thing's like basically like a bore gauge on a stand. I'll give you a better close-up in a minute here. And I've already zeroed it on one part of the rod. And then you basically just spin it around a little bit, watch the dial, and it tells you how much it's out. You want basically 0. When they come from the factory, they're 0. So yeah, hold it up against and spin it. And this one is just under 1 thou. So like I said, Probably going to need trued up. Oh, they are going to be need trued up, but these ones haven't been trued up yet. So, that's how you check them. I'll give you a little close-up here. So here's what the pin fitting and rod reconditioning mic looks like. As you can see, it's got a super accurate dial bore gauge on it. You'll know once you set it, that way you're in the clearance and that way you're in the interference, obviously. And then that one little mark, that's only 1 thou, so 0.001 of an inch. So every one of those tiny little marks in between is 0.0001 of an inch, which is super, super accurate. And these are the forks you set it on. And I'm going to see if I can give you a bit of demo. Needed my camera boy Will to show up today. I was going to plan on using him as a camera boy a little bit. We were supposed to have a shop date today on Sunday, but he couldn't make it. Love you, Willie boy. Thanks for changing the oil in my truck. There we go. Okay. Super hard to hold it square. They definitely need a hone out. And it's impossible to do with one hand, but like you kind of check them. It's you just need a super feel for this thing, but you kind of check them like all the way down the whole bearing saddle. When we flip it, do the same thing. Like I say, about a thou. So these are going to the honer, which this is, but this one's out of commission. This thing definitely needs TLC, like I said, but we're going to get it going. Because I heard there's honing oil now that doesn't stink as bad. Old honing oil, if you've ever used it, you know, your wife or girlfriend's definitely making you change your clothes and have a shower and probably making you sleep in the garage when you come home smelling like it. So that's why I never got this thing going. I would always just use Robbie Becker's rod honer when I need the rod's honed out. Going to use him again on these ones. And yeah, that's it. This is a rod honer and this super accurate thing that you use to hone them in and recondition the rods. You can do the pin end as well. Alright, so now we've taken the piston and rod assembly, disassembled the piston from the rod, disassembled the rod, washed it, cleaned it, put the bolts back in, lubed up the bolts, put them back in, checked the stretch, torqued them down, all that. And now here we are done. Final verdict. These are scat rods. I checked the price when Billy bought the first set that went in 2008. They were $500 Canadian. I'm sure they're closer to $1,000 now. But he did put one set in. So this is the second set of rods in this engine. And final verdict, if I was going to build a brand new hitter that I'm going to want to scream and 9,000 RPM and wring every little bit of horsepower of it, I would not use these. But these are going to be our third engine, our old reliable in the corner. And I personally think we're only be turning it 7,500 most of the time if we use it. So I'm going to recondition these and put them back in. That'd be up to you. If you're a lower buck team, and like I say, if you're just turning it in the 7,000 range, not a big deal. These rods will definitely take it again. But if you plan on qualifying a little bit better, screaming closer to 9,000, definitely get yourself a set of Dyers or one of the more top name rods. And when I buy those, I just run them to one brakes. And I bought a set of Olivers and they never broke. I ran them for at least 5 years and then I sold them another engine. That person ran them a little longer. So if you get a good set of rods, they will last a while even in the higher RPM applications. But if you're a tour guy, you definitely replace them. If you're a local guy, you can definitely get a couple rebuilds out of them. Next week we'll do the pistons. I was thinking of putting them in this week, but definitely went a little long. You got to do this all 8, obviously. We only did the one, but you got to redo all 8. But I'm definitely reconditioning them all. I'm going to reuse them. And next week we'll show you the pistons. Same thing you go through to do that. And I want to give a shout out to Trey Osborne. Won the USAC non-wing feature in Ocala last week. On a 28-year-old Mopar engine. Non-wing stuff. The engine matters even less, so you can get away with even more of this kind of stuff that I like showing you of how to keep stuff running. So I'm sure he's put lots of new parts in it, like rods and pistons over. He's a good follow on Facebook. So that 28-year-old Mopar engine in Victory Lane at Ocala last week. Shout out to Trey. I'd love to talk to him for an interview because he would definitely be a cool one because he's definitely one of the few guys out there that do this kind of stuff like me, and he's out there winning on the non-wing tour. So super cool to see that last week. Congrats again to Trey, and hope you liked my rod reconditioning video. Final verdict, I've said it 10 times, and I am going to reuse these, put them back in Billy's engine, but it's just going to be use at last resort engine, so that's why we're reusing them. If we were building our new hitter, we only had one engine, we'd probably be replacing them. It'd be time. But thanks for watching Cunningham Custom Engines. Thanks for 500 subscribers. Like the videos, comment on the video if I made any mistakes or if you liked what you saw, and we'll see you next week.